Sampson slumped back in the Denville yard, looking very sad. "So did Mr. McCormick have one of his conversations with you?" teased Marty. "Shut the hell up," snapped Stacy. "Can't you see the poor engine's been through enough?" "What happened?" asked Sapphire. "I don't know," said Sampson sadly. "One minute I'm pushing cars, next minute I'm in the back of Mr. G's business car." "How did Mr. G get home?" asked Shaun. "Damion and Harley took him to Middletown," answered Sampson, "and from there he caught a train home. Mr. McCormick had to pay for his ticket and the repairs to his business car. He'll never forgive me." "Don't say that," reassured Lewis. "Mr. McCormick will once he's calmed down." The big engines were also discussing the accident. "Do you think Mr. McCormick and Mr. G will have Sampson scrapped?" asked Sarah. "Probably not," replied Kevin, "although they probably really want to." "I don't understand," sighed Taylor. "Sampson always seemed like such a careful engine." "None of us are perfect," puffed Christian. "Larry, what do you think?" But Larry didn't seem to be paying attention to the conversation. "Larry, what's the matter?" asked Kryssy. "I'm thinking about the accident. I just can't see Sampson causing it." "But all factors point to him," explained Andrew. "I know," replied Larry, "but something just seems fishy about it." The next morning, Dave arrived to give up the assignments and had some important news. The main line between Oscawan and Lake Junction will be single-track due to repairs by the bridge, Dave explained. He then turned to Larry. "Larry, can you go to the oil refinery and pick up a train of fuel for me, please?" "Yes, Dave," replied Larry. Larry arrived at the oil refinery, where Damion and Harley were working. "Hello, Larry, is it? How are you doing today?" Fine, I guess," answered Larry, not really wanting to talk to the two diesels. "Don't be shy," snickered Harley. "You'd have to get used to us since we're going to be around for a while." "What makes you think that?" huffed Larry. "Trust us, we will," said Damion in an oily voice. Larry puffed out of the yard with a backwards glance. "They're up to something," he said to himself. Larry arrived at Middletown Station, where he found Chris switching freight cars. "Hello," said Chris. "You like something's on your mind. What's up?" Larry told Chris about his suspicions. "Do you really think something shady's going on?" Chris asked. "Yes," answered Larry. "I want to prove it, but I don't want to go in alone. You in?" "I'm in," said Chris confidently. Later that day, Larry and Chris followed Damion and Harley from the oil refinery. They stayed far enough back so they wouldn't alert them. They followed them back to the old yard where they had been having their meetings. "I got word you did well at the oil refinery today," said Mr. Warnock. "Oh, yes, we did," said Damion proudly. "Egan will give us that contract in no time," smiled Harley. "It was a good plan you had to sabotage that box cap yesterday," said Mr. Warnock. That was all Larry needed to hear. "I knew it," hissed Larry. "Come on, Chris." But Larry reversed too quickly and bumped into Chris. "What was that?" They all looked up and spotted Larry and Chris. "Seize them!" shouted Mr. Warnock as he hopped aboard Damion. Larry and Chris didn't think twice. They raced backwards with the diesels hot on their trail. "I'm running out of coal," called Chris. "They'll catch us." Larry knew he was right. He had to come up with a plan and fast. They raced through Andale Station. After that was Lake Junction. Then Larry remembered what Dave told them that morning about the track work. "I have an idea. Just keep going, Chris." When they reached Lake Junction, they crossed over to the other line and stopped. Larry's driver then hopped out of his cabin through the switch. Damion and Harley were approaching fast. "They stopped," called Damion. "We'll catch them now," added Harley. By the time they noticed the switch in the damaged track, it was too late. Oh no! They shouted. They slid past Larry and Chris, hit the damaged track, and plunged into the lake. Mr. Warnock and their crews tried to escape, but the doors were jammed due to the crash. They weren't going anywhere now. Mr. Egan, Mr. G, and Dave arrived with the wreck crews and the police. Mr. G and Mr. Egan had words with Mr. Warnock before the police took him away, while Dave spoke to Larry and Chris. You had the right idea. I just wish you used more conventional methods. Yes, Dave. We're sorry, Dave, said Larry. Sampson arrived with Mr. McCormick. They were shocked at what they saw. Mr. Egan explained everything to them. Those scums, grumbled Sampson. Congratulations, Mike, said Mr. Egan. You will run my 2 branch lines. Mr. McCormick smiled from ear to ear. Thank you, Mr. Egan, he said. He then turned to Sampson. Sampson, I'm sorry I blamed you for the accident, apologized Mr. McCormick. That's all right, sir, smiled Sampson. I understand how it looked. And I'm sorry I yelled at you, added Mr. G. Everyone went silent. They never thought they'd hear Mr. G say the words, I'm sorry. Well, that put everything right. Mr. McCormick still needed another standard gauge engine to run the branch lines, so he acquired Chris. Chris would work the main lines during the day, using the Southern United Railroad main line to get in between them. He now lives in Denville with Benny and the narrow gauge engines, who welcomed him to the family. Mr. G did a deeper investigation into Mr. Warnock, and he found other shady business practices that he was involved in. He was found guilty and sent to prison, and was also stripped of his railroad. Because Damion and Harley were the 2 engines that helped him carry out all these schemes, they were taken out of service and used as a part source for the other locomotives. Although Chris was doing well, Mr. McCormick still needed another engine to work the oil refinery. But I feel this story has gone on long enough. I'll tell you about that another time.